Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at the Virtual Indigenous Artist Hub, brought to you by Punctuate Theatre and Dreamspeakers. I'm Rebecca Sadowski. I'm a Métis dance and theatre artist in Edmonton. I'm also an artistic associate of Punctuate Theatre. Today I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down and speaking with elders Joanne and Jerry Saddleback. They are elder and spiritual advisors to many organizations, institutions, and communities, as well as individuals here in Alberta. So thank you both so much for joining me, and I am just thrilled that we get to sit down and talk a bit more about your work and what you've been up to.
It's really nice to sit down with you and to do this interview.
I also wanted to start by just saying how appreciative I am of both of you taking this time to talk to us and bring us into your work right now and what you're experiencing. So as a part of that appreciation, I do have a bit of tobacco that I would like to offer you, and hopefully I can send this to you and it can make its way to you soon.
I'll spiritually take.
Yes.
At the beginning, when it was beginning to hit Edmonton, even just a little bit, I was actually in the hospital.
Yes.
And they sent me home. As I was getting mobile, they actually told me, they said, since you're mobile, walking around by yourself, it is safer for you to recuperate at home because we're having COVID patients now just in the next ward, which was just down the hall from us. So they said, if you can, it's safer for you to go home. I said, absolutely. And for my husband too, you know, him coming in to visit me every day, it was just getting riskier and riskier and riskier. And we have been self-isolating. We have been, you know, sometimes we go to the front steps or at the sidewalk and wave to our grandchildren, you know, at the door, you know. We did that at Easter time, you know, and that was just, you know, just the glimpse of grandchildren, you know, has been just such good medicine, you know, to us. We own a store, the Câhcacêp Art and Tea House, and there's this beautiful gallery, and I walked into it for the first time in about a month and a half, about 2 weeks ago or so, and I just cried. I cried. Nobody's seeing this beautiful exhibit by Lana Whiskeyjack. Everything was just kind of put on hold, you know, and you know, you have to get supplies for our own, to work our own art has been very, very difficult because stores haven't been open, and since I was sick there for a good month.
Yeah.
So there was a month there where I wasn't working on anything, you know, just trying to get my health back.
Yeah.
It was the most I'd ever been ill. I mean, it was awful, awful, awful. And it was the longest I'd ever been so ill. And then my husband looking after me, my hero, I gotta tell you, he's a real trooper.
Oh,
yeah.
True love right there. Yeah. Wow.
We could do nothing, you know, so it was very difficult as artists and supporting artists.
Yeah.
You know, it's been very, very difficult. Even now, it's still incredibly difficult, even as things are opening up a little bit. What keeps us going is that ability to visit with people, to have tea, to have a little something to eat, and without that kind of connection, without that kind of it inspires and it gives the person hope.
Definitely. Can you tell us a bit about the beginning of your tea house and gallery and where that initiative came from?
You know, about 30 years ago, I'm a designer, and I'd wake up from dreams with designs in my head, and I'd go and I'd draw them, or I'd write it down. What was it I dreamed of? You know, I dreamed of, you know, windows. How to design a window with a native approach to it, you know, but there were just so many artists that we ran into, that, including my husband too, with his beautiful bows.
Yes,
These are works of art,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to make his bows, you know, but how to start being a businessman, you know, and I realized that because I had been in administrative positions so much that there wasn't this huge leap on doing a promotional campaign for a certain project as there is to start helping promote, you know, my husband, our business, and Indigenous artists as well.
Definitely.
So it sort of grew from that.
What a wonderful space for, yeah, as you're saying, community and people to gather and share food and share their ideas about art, and for a way to also have artists show their work. So Jerry, do you dream about bows? And did bow making come to you in a dream? No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to ask you, how did you cultivate that skill, and where does that bow mastery come from?
Just grew up with it. You know, back in my little boy days, I've seen my dad whittling away on hunting bows. Actually, was a master bow maker. So I'm hopefully one day going to get to that level where I can actually be classified as a master bow maker. As I was growing up, being able to hit the target square on with my bow, the bow that I've actually made, you know, the three other models that I made after, with the guidance of my late father, and that gave me all the inspiration in the world to actually go out and hunt and you know, kill wild game with this this bow, utilizing, I guess, what you call a very humane approach.
Yeah.
To the hunting, which is I rarely do that now, but it was more so in my younger days where I was able to go out there, and my grandparents or my parents needed some traditional food, and I would go after that food. And I guess you could say that the bow became a part of me. In fact, the name within our culture, when we say bow, we say Câhcacêp, Câhcacêp, and the word for soul is Câhcacêp. See, Câhcacêp and Câhcacêp. So that bow is, I mean, that bow is part of my soul.
It's so wonderful when I ask Indigenous artists about their form and about their discipline. It does have a lot to do with spirit connection. It has a lot to do with just with roots and who they are, and where that comes from. And even like for me, I'm a dance and theater artist, but I love to weave. I love to weave sashes, and there is something about tactile craft work that, I don't know, for me, I feel connected, and I feel, you know, more at one with maybe my ancestors or where I come from.
Part of being a warrior is knowing your arts and knowing your crafts. That helps. It's actually a tool to help you connect. I used to do a lot of sewing when I was a really young woman. I used to take, you know, about a week, sleep in the living room on my buffalo robe. I have this big, beautiful buffalo robe. And if I wanted to make something that I'd never made before, I would lift my pipe, live on that buffalo robe for 4 days, eat very little, but I would eat some. And I would be mostly fasting. So I'd fast during the day and I'd eat at night. And if I was inspired by a certain design, and then I would pray about it for 4 days, especially if I'd never made anything like that before. And on that fourth day, I would figure out a way to do it. I would figure out a way to make it, even though I'd never made it before, like a tapestry. You know, how do I get this certain design in a tapestry?
Yeah.
But I'm really kind of drawn to that now, to try and perfect that, to try and see where that leads me. Also, when I was a much younger woman too, I was in pottery, and I want to go further with that. It's a long list of things that I want to make, because I want to you know, along with clothing, along with bed linens, you know, just everything that I see from from a Plains Cree approach or a Plains Cree point of view. So I'm to me, it's one thing, but when you look at it all, it's a whole bunch of things that will be produced, you know, from that.
Yeah.
Just with me, it's been a lot of it. This had to do with my the story that I was told as I was from the time I was a child. Here, just a very let's see, knee high to a grasshopper, and right around I'd say about 4-year-old or something like that. I started learning this story. It was our history of creation story. It's a really vast story. It's what they term as tipahuan, which is balance. It's a way of balancing everything. The physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional aspect of even the certain things that you do, like the artwork that you bring in, that there's always that balance that's within that artwork.
Because you've been elder advisors on so many, you know, city committees, libraries, museums, festivals, artistic engagements, and companies. For those of us that might be unfamiliar, what role does an elder have when advising those community engagements? And why is it important to continue to engage elders?
I think that that's a really good question, Rebecca, because I've seen a lot of elders that are given protocol and asked to say a prayer, and then they go and sit down.
That's it.
That's it. The whole idea is that I think kind of what makes us effective is that I know from my husband, knowing that story of creation, you know, that we understand what that Indigenous approach is. We understand how it's connecting to everything else. Like when we were sitting on the Indigenous Art Park Committee, as elders, we were able to work with the landscapers and tell them, well, you know, when we come through something, going into something, it's either east or south, you know, so the entrances of the art park mean something. All of the artists that were chosen, we did consultation, you know, with them. They came on their own, brought us protocol. You know, some wanted a quiet place. You know, some others, they'd come and buy us dinner. You know, sometimes we've never been to such exotic restaurants. You know, they wanted to know what that Indigenous approach or those philosophies behind things, or that action was behind certain art. Like where does art belong in that Indigenous life?
And then there's this new generation of people bringing in all these new fantastic ideas of that, how they can actually, you know, enrich and fulfill a lot of the different, like say, many of them have this vision of certain things that they'd like to get to, as far as like even spiritually, or that they actually look at that and be able to utilize that as a first-hand inspiration and guide to actually walk them there. And it's a beautiful walk.
Is there anything that is important to remember or focus on in these weary times? And what are things that bring you hope?
When they made this earth, I say they, that's Câhcacêp Câhcacêp Manatu Esquoyo. The second being that he made was a woman. So we have a father of the universe, we have a mother of the universe. They gave us this earth, they gave us a perfect earth, they gave us perfect health. We believe all this sickness, all this poverty, all this squalor, all the disease is man-made. We did it. Man's inhumanity to man. We kept things from our brothers and sisters that we all should have shared. You know, as my father used to say, there's enough in this country for everyone's needs, but there's not enough for everybody's greeds. So when you have that man's inhumanity to man, you create poverty, you create squalor, you create disease, you create privilege. We did this. The good news is, if we did this, we can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
We can fix it. And when we pray, the Creator hears that, and He's going to help us. He's going to help show us the way to fix that. And it starts with that respect and love for oneself, and it flows out kindness and compassion. I think that's the biggest message that we can give. It starts with kindness and compassion, and from there flows that inspiration, flows that art, flows that expression of all of those things.
Such a wonderful thing to remember, especially in the time that we're in right now. So I want to thank you both again for sitting down and sharing all of this wonderful wisdom and these just nuggets of truth that are just so beautiful and wonderful to hold on to.
We want to say ai hai to you. In our language, when we say ai hai, it's not just saying thank you to you. What it is we're thanking the Creator that He made you, that He created you. So I want to say that to you and all of our listeners. Thank you. Hi, hi.
Thank you so much, viewers, for watching the Virtual Indigenous Artist Hub, brought to you by Punctuate Theatre and Dreamspeakers. These companies would like to thank their funders. Without their support, this project would not be possible. Make sure to check out all of the other artists that we're highlighting in this series, and I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope to see you all soon.